Everyone knows there's a speed limit in the universe. Nothing with mass can outrun light. We repeat that fact so often it feels harmless, almost boring. But tonight, I want you to forget the formula. Forget the numbers. Forget everything you were taught to memorize. Because this isn't really a story about light being fast. It's a story about why the universe refuses to let you go any faster. Somewhere deep in the structure of reality, there is a line you are not allowed to cross. Not because of technology, not because of fuel, but because space and time themselves will not permit it. Right now, as you sit here listening, you are already moving at the maximum possible speed. Not through space, through time. And every attempt to move faster through the universe demands a payment. A quiet, invisible payment. Paid in seconds. Paid in distance. Paid in reality itself. This is the strange bargain written into existence. A bargain you cannot negotiate with. A bargain you don't even notice until you try to push against it. Tonight, we're going to drift toward that boundary, not to break it, but to understand why it's there, and what begins to unravel the closer you get. Speed feels like something you earn. You press harder on the accelerator, you burn more fuel, you add more power, and instinctively you expect the reward to be simple. You go faster. That idea is so deeply wired into us that we rarely question it. Speed feels like a property of objects. Cars have it, planes have more of it, rockets have even more. But the universe doesn't see speed that way. In the deepest layer of reality, speed is not something an object possesses. It's something reality itself permits. This is the first quiet misunderstanding. Light isn't special because it's fast. It's special because it reveals the maximum rate at which cause and effect can move through the universe. At that speed, information itself travels. Not matter, not energy in the everyday sense, but the ability for one event to influence another. When a photon moves, it isn't fighting resistance. It isn't pushing against space. It is simply following the geometry of space-time as it exists. Everything else is different. The moment an object has mass, it is no longer free to move however it wants. It becomes anchored, tethered to time. You can add energy. You can add enormous amounts of energy. But instead of speed increasing cleanly, something subtler begins to happen. Reality redirects your effort. Your added energy stops going into motion through space and starts sinking somewhere else. Into inertia. Into resistance that has no texture and no surface. Into a kind of cosmic accounting system that refuses to balance in your favor. This is why the phrase, approaching the speed of light, is deceptive. You're not approaching a finish line. You're approaching a wall that doesn't feel solid until you lean against it. At low speeds, the wall isn't there. Push harder and you go faster, just like you expect. But the closer you get to that ultimate limit, the more reality begins to push back. Not violently, not dramatically, quietly, relentlessly. As if the universe is gently saying, this is not yours to take. There is a comforting illusion in everyday life that time belongs to you. Seconds arrive in neat, obedient lines. Minutes stack cleanly on top of each other. Your watch agrees with the clock on the wall, and the world feels synchronized. But this order only exists because you are moving slowly. The universe does not actually promise that time will treat everyone the same. It only pretends to when speeds are low enough for the lie to hold. Here is the unsettling truth. You're never standing still. Even now, your body is moving through space-time at the maximum possible rate. Not through distance, but through duration. Every second that passes is motion. Every heartbeat is travel. Space-time does not allow you to exceed that total speed. It only allows you to redistribute it. When you begin to move through space, something has to be surrendered, and what you surrender is time. This is not metaphor, it is bookkeeping. As your velocity increases, the universe quietly reduces the rate at which your clock is allowed to tick. Not because the clock is broken, not because of mechanical failure, but because time itself has been thinned. From your perspective, nothing feels wrong. Your thoughts arrive on schedule, your breath keeps its rhythm. Your body does not sense the theft. But to the outside world, you begin to fall behind. This is why two identical clocks can disagree. Why one can age less than the other. Why motion leaves scars that only mathematics can see. The faster you move through space, the less time you are permitted to experience. This trade is absolute, non-negotiable. And as you approach the universe's speed limit, the exchange becomes brutal. Each tiny increase in velocity costs more time than the last. The price climbs without warning, until, at the edge, time itself refuses to move at all. And that is when speed stops being a privilege and becomes a punishment. If you keep pushing, something else begins to change. Not time. Not yet. Space. At everyday speeds, space feels rigid. Distances feel honest. A meter is a meter no matter who measures it. But once motion becomes extreme, that certainty quietly dissolves. The universe does not allow you to outrun light by stretching speed. Instead, it shrinks the space you are trying to cross. This is not perspective, not an optical trick, not something caused by faulty instruments. It is space itself being compressed. An object moving fast enough does not occupy the same amount of space for everyone watching it. To a stationary observer, it becomes shorter in the direction of motion, not symbolically, physically. From the outside, a fast-moving ship appears squeezed. Distances along its path collapse inward, as if space is folding to keep the speed limit intact. Inside the ship, nothing feels wrong. Walls remain solid. Hallways feel unchanged. The crew notices no distortion at all. Reality splits into two equally valid descriptions, and neither can accuse the other of being wrong. This is the cost of preserving the cosmic limit. Space and time rearrange themselves so that light remains undefeated. The faster you go, the more violently space must cooperate. It shortens, it compresses, it gives up its claim to being absolute. And just like time dilation, this effect does not scale politely. It accelerates. At modest speeds, the change is negligible. At extreme speeds, it becomes dramatic. Distances you expected to cross grow strangely manageable, not because you are faster, but because there is less distance left to cross. This creates a dangerous temptation. It feels like progress. It feels like cheating the system, but it isn't freedom. It is confinement disguised as advantage. Because as space collapses in front of you, the universe is not helping you escape. It is tightening its grip, ensuring that no matter how hard you push, the boundary remains exactly where it has always been. At this point, most limits in the universe begin to feel negotiable. Time can stretch, space can compress, distance can betray your expectations. So it's tempting to believe that speed itself might eventually surrender too. That if you just keep adding energy, more fuel, more power, more force, the wall will finally give way. But this is where the universe reveals its cruelest trick. Because past a certain point, energy stops behaving like energy. In everyday life, energy turns neatly into motion. Push harder, go faster. The exchange feels fair. Near light speed, that fairness collapses. You can pour unimaginable amounts of energy into an object, and its speed barely changes. Instead, something else grows. Its resistance to acceleration, its inertia, its refusal to be pushed. The universe begins to treat the object as if it were becoming heavier. Not in the way your bathroom scale would notice, but in a deeper, more fundamental sense. It becomes harder to convince reality that this object should move any faster at all. This is not a technological problem. This is not an engineering challenge waiting to be solved. This is mathematics enforcing a boundary. Hidden inside Einstein's equations is a single number that quietly governs everything we've been circling around. Physicists call it the Lorentz factor. At low speeds, it behaves politely, so close to 1 that you can pretend it isn't there. Newton's old universe survives untouched, but as velocity climbs, the number starts to swell. Slowly at first, then faster, then catastrophically. Time dilation intensifies, length contraction deepens, and the energy required for even the smallest increase in speed begins to explode. Not double, not triple, toward infinity. This is the moment where the dream of reaching light speed dies, because infinity is not a large number. It is a verdict. It means there is no final push, no heroic last burn, no moment where you cross the line. As you approach the limit, every additional fraction of speed demands more energy than all the energy that came before it combined. Stars would not be enough. Galaxies would not be enough. Reality does not slow your progress out of malice. It simply refuses to complete the transaction. You can get closer, always closer, but the final step is mathematically forbidden. This is why particles in accelerators can race at 99.999999% of light speed and still never arrive. Why the universe allows the attempt but denies the conclusion. The wall is not made of force, it is made of infinities. And no matter how hard you push, infinity does not bend, it only waits. There is a final temptation that appears when everything else has been stripped away. If speed cannot increase, if time slows instead, if space collapses to compensate, then the mind begins to wonder whether light itself is the loophole. After all, photons have no mass. They never slow down. They are born moving at the limit. So why not become one? Why not imagine a future where matter sheds its weight, where we ride the same rails that light does, slipping past the universe's restrictions unnoticed? This is where the story turns quietly unsettling, because light does not experience the universe the way you do, and it never will. From your perspective, a photon races across vast distances, from a star to a planet, from a galaxy to your eye. But from the photon's own point of view, there is no journey at all. Time does not pass for light, not slowly, not strangely, not differently. It does not pass. For a photon, the moment it is created and the moment it is absorbed are the same moment. No waiting, no duration, no in-between. Distance collapses completely. This is not poetry. This is what the equations demand. At light speed, time dilation becomes absolute. The flow of time does not merely slow, it vanishes. And without time, experience itself becomes impossible. This is the price of moving at the universe's maximum speed. Light does not witness the cosmos. It does not travel through it. It does not observe change. It simply connects events. And that is why nothing with mass is allowed to join it, because mass is inseparable from experience. To exist as matter is to age, to remember, to persist from one moment to the next. Reaching light speed would require surrendering all of that. As an object accelerates, its internal clock ticks slower relative to the universe it leaves behind. Push this process to its limit, and the clock stops entirely. No heartbeat, no thought, no awareness. Not death, but something even emptier. A state where the concept of being there no longer applies. This is why the speed of light is not just a barrier of motion, it is a boundary between two kinds of existence. On one side, objects that experience time carry mass and move through a sequence of moments. On the other, light, which exists only as an instant stretched across space. The universe does not forbid faster-than-light travel out of cruelty or caution. It forbids it because the rules that allow experience to exist do not survive beyond that line. And this is the quiet, uncomfortable truth hiding beneath all the equations. The cosmic speed limit is not protecting space, it is protecting time. It ensures that cause comes before effect, that memories have a place to form, that the universe does not collapse into a single, frozen instant. Every attempt to reach light speed is an attempt to erase the order of events, to dissolve the difference between before and after. Reality responds by tightening its grip. Not violently, not dramatically, but absolutely. So the next time you hear that nothing can travel faster than light, understand what that really means. It is not saying you are too slow. It is saying if you went any faster, there would be no one left to arrive. At some point, the question stops being how fast can you go and quietly becomes something else. What happens to the universe if you don't stop? Because the speed of light is not just a personal limit, it is a structural one. It holds the entire cosmos together. Every cause and every effect relies on it. Every signal, every memory, every chain of events that allows one moment to follow another. Light speed is the maximum rate at which the universe can keep its story in order. If information could travel faster, effects could arrive before their causes. Messages could outrun the events that created them. The sequence of reality would begin to fracture. Not dramatically, not all at once, but subtly, irreversibly. The universe would no longer agree on what happened first. This is why the speed limit is enforced everywhere, without exception. Not just for rockets, not just for particles, for gravity, for electromagnetism, for every force that tells the universe how to behave. When the sun pulls on the Earth, that influence does not act instantly. It propagates outward at light speed, the same speed as light itself. If the sun were to vanish, an impossible thought, but a useful one, Earth would continue orbiting for about 8 minutes, unaware that anything had changed. Those 8 minutes are not a delay. They are the universe insisting on order. Nothing is allowed to skip ahead. This is why faster-than-light travel is not just difficult, it is catastrophic. It would tear holes in causality, create paradoxes not as curiosities but as unavoidable consequences. You could arrive before you left. You could observe outcomes that erase their own origins. The universe would lose the ability to resolve contradictions. Physics does not tolerate that kind of ambiguity. So it builds a wall so fundamental that it does not feel like a wall at all. It feels like reality behaving normally. We grow up inside this constraint, never noticing it, the way fish never notice water. Only when we imagine pushing beyond it does the structure reveal itself. And even then, the universe does not threaten you. It does not warn you away. It simply removes the tools you would need to proceed. Energy becomes infinite. Time becomes still. Space collapses. Experience evaporates. Not as punishment, as prevention, because a universe where light speed could be exceeded would not be a universe you could inhabit. There would be no stable histories, no reliable memories, no guarantee that the present would survive long enough to become the past. The speed of light is the quiet agreement that makes existence coherent. It ensures that events unfold rather than collide, that stories have beginnings before endings, that the universe remains a place where something can happen and then be remembered. And so the limit remains, unbroken, unchallenged, not because we lack the courage to push harder, but because beyond it lies a reality where harder no longer means anything at all. The universe allows you to approach the boundary, to study it, to feel its resistance, but it will never let you cross. Because if you did, there would be no sequence left to cross into, only a single frozen moment, endless, silent, and empty. And now, after everything you've heard, a quieter realization begins to surface. The speed of light was never meant to be reached. Not by rockets, not by civilizations, not by anything that hopes to remain itself. It exists not as a destination, but as a warning built into reality. Because every time we imagine pushing closer to it, what we're really imagining is surrender. Surrendering time, surrendering space, surrendering the continuity that allows one moment to recognize the next. We tend to think of limits as failures, as shortcomings of nature, as obstacles waiting for a clever workaround. But some limits are not barriers, they are foundations. The speed of light is one of those. It quietly defines what it means for the universe to have a now. It determines which events can influence each other and which never will. It draws invisible horizons around every observer, separating what can be known from what must remain forever out of reach. Every second, light carves the present out of possibility. Without this limit, the universe would not feel vast. It would feel incoherent. Stars would not simply be far away, they would be causally meaningless. Events would blur together, untethered from sequence or consequence. Distance would lose its meaning, so would time. The cosmic speed limit protects separation, and separation, paradoxically, is what allows connection to exist at all. Because for anything to happen, something else must wait. This is the part we rarely talk about. Light speed enforces patience. It ensures that no influence arrives instantly, that nothing overwhelms everything else all at once, that the universe unfolds instead of detonates. Every process you recognize, growth, decay, memory, learning, depends on this restraint. Even you. Your thoughts arrive one after another because signals in your brain travel well below the cosmic limit. Your memories form because events have order. Your identity persists because the universe gives you time to be someone before becoming something else. To exceed light speed would be to reject all of that. It would mean existing without sequence, without anticipation, without aftermath, not transcendence, erasure. This is why the universe does not tempt you with a way through. There is no hidden corridor, no clever exception waiting to be discovered. The equations do not hide loopholes, they close them again and again. And so the speed of light remains exactly where it is, unmoved by ambition, unimpressed by imagination. Not because the universe is cold or indifferent, but because it is precise. It knows what kind of reality it is willing to sustain. One where moments follow moments, where causes precede effects, where something can happen and then mean something. The closer you get to the limit, the clearer this becomes. Not as a threat, but as a truth. The universe will let you approach the boundary, measure it, admire it, but it will never let you become it. Because the moment you did, there would be no time left to notice. And in that silence, you begin to understand. The speed of light is not the edge of motion, it is the edge of experience. Long after the equations are written down, after the limits are proven and accepted, a different question lingers. Not a scientific one, a human one. Why does this limit feel personal? We don't feel offended by the boiling point of water. We don't resent the strength of gravity. But the speed of light carries a strange emotional weight, as if the universe looked at curiosity itself and said, "You may wonder, but you may not pass." Perhaps that's because this limit confronts something deeper than motion. It confronts desire, the desire to arrive sooner, to see more, to escape distance, to outrun time itself. Throughout history, speed has always meant power. Faster messengers, faster ships, faster signals. Each increase collapsed the world a little more. Borders shrank, delays vanished. The future felt closer.
So when physics tells us there is a final compression that cannot happen, it feels like betrayal. But the universe was never trying to help us win a race. It was trying to keep the race from destroying the track. Because speed, unchecked, erases context. If everything could happen instantly, nothing would feel significant. Arrival would lose meaning if departure were irrelevant. Distance would stop shaping experience. Waiting, frustrating as it is, gives shape to reality. Light speed preserves waiting. It ensures that anticipation exists, that journeys have middles, that separation can ache. Even loss depends on it. If information traveled infinitely fast, grief would have no delay. Shock would have no space to land. There would be no moment between what was and what is. The universe, strangely, protects that pause. This is why the speed of light appears not just in physics, but everywhere structure matters. In stars burning steadily instead of exploding at once. In galaxies forming patterns instead of noise. In you being able to listen to these words one after another, rather than all at once. The limit is not cruel, it is conservative. It preserves difference. It preserves sequence. It preserves the possibility of meaning emerging over time. We imagine a faster universe as a more advanced one, but advancement is not the same as coherence. A universe without a speed limit would not be exhilarating. It would be unintelligible. Everything would overlap. Causes would tangle with effects. No frame of reference would hold long enough to matter. The speed of light prevents reality from speaking over itself. It gives the universe a tempo, not rushed, not stalled, just slow enough for something to happen and be noticed. So when you feel that quiet frustration, that sense that the universe is holding something back from you, consider the alternative. Consider a cosmos with no restraint, no order, no before and after. And then notice the subtle generosity of this one, a universe that refuses to hurry, that insists on sequence, that demands patience from everything that exists within it, including you. The speed of light is not a challenge to overcome, it is a rhythm to live inside. And once you hear it that way, the limit stops feeling like a wall. It starts feeling like time itself, asking you to slow down. When everything settles, when the arguments fade and the equations stop shouting, what remains is something unexpectedly quiet. Acceptance, not resignation, not defeat, but the recognition that some truths are not meant to be overcome. The speed of light is one of them. It doesn't challenge us the way mountains challenge climbers. It doesn't invite conquest. It doesn't whisper, "Try harder." It simply exists, unmoved by ambition, unchanged by ingenuity. And that can feel unsettling in a world built on progress. We are used to limits that fall, barriers that dissolve, rules that turn out to be temporary misunderstandings. But this one does not behave like the others. The more deeply we understand it, the more fundamental it becomes. Not a crack in the universe's design, but a beam holding everything up. Because light speed is not just a ceiling on motion, it is the rule that allows separation to matter. It ensures that places are distinct, that moments are not all the same moment, that the universe can be large without being chaotic. Without it, there would be no meaningful elsewhere, no sense of far or near. Everything would collapse into immediacy, and immediacy, paradoxically, erases experience. Experience requires delay. It requires the space between action and consequence, between question and answer, between now and later. Light speed preserves that space. It gives the universe breathing room. This is why the limit feels so intimate. It shapes how long it takes for news to arrive, how long it takes for help to come, how long it takes to realize something has changed. It shapes patience, longing, hope, even wonder. When you look at the night sky, you are not seeing things as they are. You are seeing things as they were, minutes ago, years ago, millions of years ago. That delay is not a flaw, it is a gift. It allows the past to reach you. It allows the universe to tell its story one chapter at a time. If everything arrived instantly, the sky would be overwhelming. Every star would shout at once. There would be no depth, only noise. Light speed turns the cosmos into a narrative instead of a blur. And narratives require limits. They require pacing. They require restraint. They require the willingness to let some things remain distant. So perhaps the deepest reason nothing can travel faster than light is not technical at all. Perhaps it is existential. A universe without restraint would not be a place where meaning survives. It would be a place where everything happens too quickly to matter. The speed of light slows existence just enough to be lived, just enough to be remembered, just enough for one moment to follow another instead of replacing it. And once you see it that way, the limit stops feeling like a denial. It begins to feel like an invitation to exist inside time rather than escape it, to move through moments instead of erasing them, to accept that some distances are not meant to vanish. Because in the end, the universe does not ask how fast you can go. It asks something quieter. Can you stay long enough to experience what happens along the way? And finally, after all the limits have been named, after all the reasons have been traced back to equations and structure and necessity, there is one last place to look. Not outward, inward. Because the speed of light is not just a rule the universe follows, it is a rule we live inside. Every expectation you have about tomorrow depends on it. Every memory you trust, every promise that feels meaningful. You wake up believing that the future has not happened yet, that yesterday is fixed, that now is something you briefly occupy before it slips away. None of that is guaranteed by logic alone. It is guaranteed by restraint. The universe restrains itself so that time can feel directional, so that change can feel real, so that causes reliably come before consequences. Without the speed limit, there would be no arrow of time you could depend on, no reason to believe that effort precedes outcome, no confidence that patience will ever be rewarded. Everything that makes intention meaningful relies on delay. Think about that. Hope requires waiting. Regret requires sequence. Love requires duration. Even fear needs time to arrive before it can be felt. A universe where information traveled infinitely fast would not be dramatic or exciting. It would be emotionally flat. There would be no suspense, no anticipation, no relief. Everything would be known instantly, everywhere, all at once. And in that instant, nothing would matter. The speed of light prevents that collapse. It forces events to unfold rather than pile up. It ensures that the present is narrow, not overwhelming, that the mind can inhabit it without being crushed. This is why the limit never feels abstract for long. It reaches into daily life, into the pause before a message arrives, into the wait for a diagnosis, into the silence after you speak difficult words. Those gaps are not empty. They are where meaning forms. And they exist because the universe refuses to rush. We often imagine transcendence as speed, as escape, as outrunning constraints. But what if transcendence is something quieter? What if it is the ability to remain present inside limits and still find depth there? The speed of light draws a horizon around every observer, a boundary between what can affect you now and what must wait. That horizon is not a prison. It is a frame. It turns chaos into a scene, infinity into a story, existence into something that can be experienced moment by moment. When you reach the edge of what physics allows, The universe does not collapse into mystery. It becomes intimate. It tells you, gently but firmly, this is the pace at which reality can be lived. Not conquered, not bypassed, lived. And perhaps that is the most unsettling conclusion of all. That the greatest limit we encounter is not there to stop us from becoming more, but to make sure that whatever we become has time to exist. So the speed of light remains, unbroken, unyielding, not as a challenge, not as a punishment, but as the quiet condition that allows one moment to follow another, long enough for someone to notice, long enough for someone to care, long enough for this moment, right now, to be here at all. There is a strange moment that comes after understanding, not the excitement of discovery, not the thrill of insight, but a soft, almost uncomfortable stillness. Because once you truly grasp what the speed of light represents, it becomes impossible to unsee it. It stops being a number, stops being a rule in a textbook. It becomes the background of your existence. Everywhere you look, it is there, quietly shaping what is allowed to happen. When you speak, your words do not arrive all at once. Sound moves slowly, carefully, giving your thoughts shape. When you see someone across a room, light carries their presence to you, fraction by fraction. Nothing arrives instantly, and that delay is not a flaw. It is the reason moments feel real. The universe is constantly holding itself back, restraining its own power, refusing to collapse everything into immediacy. Imagine if it didn't. Imagine a reality where distance had no cost, where influence had no travel time, where every event touched every other event at once. There would be no here, no there, no now, just everything, everywhere, all the time. In such a universe, awareness would drown. Consciousness depends on separation, on sequence, on the gentle spacing of experiences. The speed of light provides that spacing. It is the pause between thunder and lightning, the wait between sending a message and receiving a reply, the stretch of time that allows anticipation to exist. Even uncertainty depends on it. If information traveled infinitely fast, there would be no unknowns, no suspense, no unfolding. The future would collapse into the present before you could prepare for it. The past would never feel settled. Life would not feel intense. It would feel unbearable. This is why the cosmic speed limit feels less like a barrier the longer you sit with it, and more like a kindness. A stern one, an uncompromising one, but a kindness nonetheless. It says, you may move, you may change, but you must do so in steps. It enforces patience on stars and atoms alike. Even the most violent events in the universe, supernovae, black hole mergers, cosmic collisions, are governed by this restraint. Their influence spreads outward, never instant, never absolute. The universe gives itself time to react to itself, and in that time, structure survives. Galaxies form instead of dissolving. Atoms persist instead of tearing themselves apart. Stories have beginnings, middles, and ends. So when we ask why nothing can exceed the speed of light, we are really asking something deeper. Why does the universe insist on order? Why does it refuse shortcuts that would make everything immediate? The answer seems to be this: because immediacy destroys meaning. Meaning requires delay. It requires the slow arrival of consequences. It requires the space to feel before understanding. The speed of light guarantees that space. It ensures that no matter how advanced a civilization becomes, no matter how powerful its machines, reality itself will never rush. And perhaps that is the final, unsettling implication. Progress will never outrun presence. Power will never erase patience. Knowledge will never eliminate waiting. The universe does not reward haste. it rewards continuity. So the limit remains, not as an obstacle to overcome, but as a condition to live within. A reminder that existence is not something to be completed as quickly as possible. It is something to be experienced, one moment at a time, moving no faster than reality itself will allow. After everything else has been said, there is one final truth that refuses to stay theoretical. The speed of light does not merely limit how fast things move. It defines what it means for anything to happen at all. Strip away the language of physics, and what remains is a universe that insists on sequence. One thing, then another. Cause, then consequence. A before that must exist for an after to make sense. This is not a convenience, it is a requirement.
Without a universal speed limit, reality would not unfold. It would collapse inward on itself. Events would not wait their turn. They would collide, overlap, erase one another before they could be recognized. The speed of light prevents that collapse by enforcing distance, not just in space, but in influence. It ensures that no event can dominate all others instantly, that nothing can become everywhere at once. This restraint is what allows complexity to survive. Stars burn slowly instead of all at once. Planets cool gradually instead of instantly freezing or boiling. Life evolves through countless small changes rather than a single catastrophic leap. Even thought itself depends on this pacing. Your brain is not a simultaneous explosion of awareness. It is a sequence of signals traveling at finite speed. Thoughts arrive one after another, not all at once.
If they did, consciousness would not feel like a stream. It would feel like noise. The speed of light keeps the universe from becoming noise. And here is the part that feels hardest to accept. No intelligence, no matter how advanced, can negotiate with this rule. You cannot invent your way around it. You cannot discover a hidden clause. You cannot outgrow it. Because the rule is not imposed on the universe. It is the universe. The equations do not describe a speed limit the way traffic laws describe one. They describe the geometry of existence itself. To exceed light speed would not be to move faster within reality. It would be to step outside the conditions that allow reality to exist coherently. And nothing, not matter, not energy, not information, survives that step. This is why every speculative shortcut eventually fails. Warping space still respects causality. Wormholes demand conditions that preserve the same limit. Every idea that seems to escape the boundary quietly rebuilds it elsewhere. The universe does not allow contradictions at the deepest level. It resolves them by refusing them outright. So the speed of light remains untouched. Not because we are primitive, not because we lack imagination, but because imagination itself depends on sequence, on delay, on the ability for one idea to follow another. This is the final, unsettling realization. The ultimate limit in physics is also a limit on domination, on immediacy, on total control. The universe will not allow anything to be everywhere, know everything, or influence everything all at once. It enforces humility at the level of law, and in doing so, it preserves something fragile and precious. A reality where events can unfold, where consequences can arrive after actions, where meaning has time to form. So when you hear that nothing can travel faster than light, understand the deeper implication. The universe is not racing toward an end. It is pacing itself, ensuring that existence does not become instantaneous, or overwhelming, or empty. The speed of light is not the edge of possibility. It is the condition that makes possibility feel real. And once you see that, the limit stops feeling like a denial. It becomes the quiet reason that anything at all can happen next. There is a subtle shift that happens once the limit is fully understood. The question is no longer whether the universe could allow something faster than light. The question becomes whether it should. Because by now, it's clear that this limit is not arbitrary. It is not a technical inconvenience waiting for a future breakthrough. It is not a challenge meant to be conquered. It is a design choice, not made by intention, not made by intelligence, but embedded so deeply that removing it would unravel everything built on top of it. The speed of light defines the maximum rate at which the universe can remain intelligible to itself. Every interaction depends on this pacing. Atoms hold together because forces propagate with delay. Stars maintain balance because energy does not redistribute instantly. Galaxies persist because gravity respects the same finite speed. Without this limit, structures would not stabilize. They would overshoot, oscillate violently, tear themselves apart before equilibrium could be reached. The universe would be unstable, not occasionally, but fundamentally. And instability at that scale is not dramatic. It is silent. Nothing would last long enough to be noticed. This is the uncomfortable truth hiding beneath all speculation about faster-than-light travel. The universe is not preventing motion beyond light speed to protect us. It is preventing itself from dissolving. Every law we rely on assumes that influence takes time to spread, that reactions are delayed, that feedback arrives after action, not before. Remove that assumption and physics stops making sense. Not just relativity, all of it. Chemistry would collapse without temporal order. Biology would have no pathway to complexity. Information would lose meaning without sequence. Even logic would struggle to survive in a world where effects could precede causes. The speed of light enforces humility on the universe itself. Nothing gets to act everywhere at once. Nothing gets to dominate the whole system instantly. Everything must propagate. Everything must wait. This enforced waiting is what allows coexistence. It prevents the universe from becoming a single, overwhelming event. It keeps existence distributed rather than absolute. And here is the part that feels almost philosophical. The limit is symmetrical. No privileged observer, no preferred frame, no center of control. Everyone gets their own present, their own horizon, their own slice of reality moving forward at the same ultimate pace. The universe does not grant omnipresence. It does not allow total perspective. It insists that all observers remain local, and locality is what makes perspective possible at all. If everything were everywhere instantly, nothing would be anywhere in a meaningful sense. The speed of light preserves location, preserves context, preserves the idea that where you are matters. So when we imagine breaking this limit, what we are really imagining is breaking locality, breaking sequence, breaking the conditions that allow experience to be framed. It sounds like freedom, but it would feel like erasure. There would be no gradual change, no anticipation, no aftermath, only immediacy. And immediacy, taken to its extreme, is indistinguishable from nothingness. The universe seems to understand this in the only way it can, by refusing to go faster, by insisting that everything, matter, energy, information, even gravity, moves forward together, bound by the same restraint. Not as a punishment, as a safeguard. The speed of light is the universe choosing coherence over chaos, structure over simultaneity, meaning over immediacy. And perhaps that is why this limit feels so final, because it is not the boundary of exploration. It is the boundary of survivable reality. Beyond it, there is no faster. There is only a collapse of the conditions that allow anything to be known, remembered, or experienced. So the universe stays where it is, moving forward, at exactly the speed required for something to exist, and then continue existing long enough to matter. There is one last illusion that lingers longer than the others. The belief that limits exist to be challenged, that every boundary is an invitation, that every wall is temporary. that patience is merely a placeholder for future power. Human history encourages this belief. We break barriers, we cross oceans, we compress years into seconds. Progress has trained us to expect surrender from reality. But the speed of light never yields. No matter how clever the theory, no matter how extreme the experiment, no matter how much energy we are willing to burn, it does not bend. And eventually that forces a reckoning. Not with physics, with ourselves. Because when a limit refuses to move, the only thing left to examine is why we want to cross it in the first place. What is it we imagine waiting on the other side? Instant arrival, perfect access, total reach. A universe without delay. But delay is not merely an inconvenience. Delay is what gives existence thickness. Without it, everything would be surface, flat, simultaneous. The speed of light forces the universe to have depth. It ensures that distance matters, that journeys take time, that separation creates longing rather than erasing connection. Think about how meaning forms. A message means something because it takes time to arrive. A reunion matters because there was a gap. Understanding feels earned because it was not immediate. Remove delay, and meaning collapses into noise. The universe seems to know this. It refuses to optimize itself into emptiness. Instead, it commits to pacing. Every interaction is slowed just enough to allow context to survive. Every influence is restrained just enough to prevent domination. Even the most powerful forces are patient. Gravity waits. Light travels. Time unfolds. Nothing shouts everything at once. This is why the speed of light feels less like a technical ceiling and more like a philosophical stance. Reality chooses restraint over excess, sequence over simultaneity, becoming over arriving. The limit is not there to stop motion, it is there to protect becoming, to ensure that change happens in steps rather than avalanches, that existence has moments instead of explosions. We often imagine that going faster would make the universe more accessible, but accessibility without structure is indistinguishable from chaos. If everything were reachable instantly, nothing would feel present. If every outcome were immediate, nothing would feel consequential. The speed of light preserves consequence. It guarantees that actions have time to echo, that choices leave trails, that the universe remembers what just happened before moving on. This is why the limit does not feel hostile. It feels firm, like a hand on your shoulder saying, "Not yet," and not all at once. It reminds us that existence is not meant to be consumed. It is meant to be inhabited, moment by moment, signal by signal, light wave by light wave. So when we reach the edge of what physics allows, the question changes. Not, how do we get past this, but what does this limit preserve? And the answer is quietly profound. It preserves time. It preserves distance. It preserves the fragile order that allows one thing to lead to another. It preserves experience itself. The speed of light is not the universe holding us back. It is the universe making sure there is still something worth arriving at when we finally get there. There is a quiet consequence to all of this that rarely gets named. Once you accept the speed of light as final, ambition itself changes shape. You stop asking how to outrun the universe and start asking how to live inside its tempo. Because the truth is, the universe was never built for urgency. Urgency is a human invention, a response to limited lifetimes, a reaction to knowing that moments are finite. But reality itself does not rush. Stars take millions of years to form. Galaxies take billions. Light crosses the void patiently, wave by wave, never skipping a step. The cosmic speed limit enforces this patience everywhere, without exception. Nothing gets to arrive instantly. Nothing gets to finish early. Nothing gets to be everywhere at once. And that restraint shapes not just physics, but expectation. It tells the universe how quickly change is allowed to feel. Imagine a reality where there was no upper bound on speed, where influence spread without delay, where outcomes appeared the moment intentions formed. Such a universe would feel powerful for about an instant. Then it would feel unbearable. There would be no tension, no anticipation, no unfolding. Everything would collapse into immediacy, and immediacy leaves no room for meaning to breathe. The speed of light preserves breathing room. It ensures that even the most profound transformations take time to arrive, that consequences lag behind actions, that understanding follows experience instead of replacing it. This delay is what allows reflection. It allows mistakes to be recognized after they happen. It allows growth to occur instead of instant replacement. It allows learning to feel like a process rather than a download. The universe seems to value this deeply. It refuses shortcuts that would erase becoming. Even when we imagine futures filled with impossible technology, warp drives, shortcuts through space, folded dimensions, every serious attempt to describe them eventually bows to the same rule. Causality must survive. Sequence must survive. Time must remain directional, otherwise nothing holds together. The speed of light is the quiet guardian of direction. It ensures that the universe moves forward rather than sideways into contradiction. And in doing so, it gives existence a sense of effort. Effort is not inefficiency. It is texture. A journey matters because it unfolds. Understanding matters because it arrives late. Presence matters because it is fleeting. The limit does not steal possibility, it shapes it. It tells reality how fast it is allowed to feel. So when we reach the end of this question, why nothing can travel faster than light, we arrive at an unexpected place. Not frustration, but clarity. The universe is not a puzzle waiting to be solved faster. It is a process waiting to be experienced at its own pace. The speed of light is that pace. Not arbitrary, not cruel, exact. It keeps the universe from becoming instantaneous and empty. It keeps existence from collapsing into noise. It ensures that when something happens, there is time for it to matter. And perhaps that is the most human realization of all. That meaning does not come from arrival. It comes from duration, from waiting, from moving through moments rather than skipping over them. The universe, in its quiet way, insists on this. It refuses to hurry. And in doing so, it gives you the only gift that makes experience possible at all: time. Moving forward, no faster than it should. There is a strange realization waiting at the end of this journey. The speed of light is not just a number we memorized in school. It is not merely a technical limitation standing in the way of our dreams of interstellar travel. It is a structural rule, one that holds reality together. When Einstein revealed that nothing with mass can reach or exceed the speed of light, he wasn't just setting a boundary for rockets and particles. He was exposing the deeper architecture of the universe. Space and time are not separate arenas where events happen independently. They are woven into a single fabric, and the speed of light is the thread that keeps that fabric from tearing apart. Every experiment we've discussed, atomic clocks on airplanes, particles racing inside accelerators, satellites correcting for time dilation, points to the same conclusion. As you approach light speed, something fundamental changes. Time slows, space contracts, energy rises without limit, velocity refuses to increase any further. Not because our machines fail, but because reality itself refuses to allow it. This limit protects causality, the idea that causes must come before effects. It ensures that information cannot arrive before it is sent, that consequences cannot outrun their origins. Without this boundary, the universe would lose its sense of order. Events could overlap, contradict, or erase each other entirely. A universe without a speed limit would not be more powerful, it would be unstable. Instantaneous influence would collapse distance, erase sequence, and destroy the very concept of before and after. Meaning itself depends on delay, on the fact that things take time to happen, to be observed, to be understood. The speed of light guarantees that delay. It forces every change to unfold rather than appear, every journey to have a middle, every story to have a timeline. Even the most extreme ideas in theoretical physics, wormholes, warp drives, shortcuts through space-time, struggle against this rule. Again and again, the equations insist on the same requirement: causality must survive. Time must remain directional. Effects cannot come first. The universe will bend space, it will slow time, it will convert mass into energy, but it will not surrender the speed of light. And perhaps that tells us something deeper. This universe is not designed for immediacy, it is designed for process. Stars are born over millions of years. Galaxies evolve over billions. Light itself crosses the cosmos patiently, never skipping a step. The speed limit does not remove wonder, it creates it. It ensures that exploration is gradual, that understanding arrives slowly, and that existence has texture rather than instant completion. So when we ask why nothing can travel faster than light, the answer is not disappointment, it is balance. The universe has chosen a pace, one that allows events to matter, experiences to linger, and time to flow forward without collapsing into chaos. The speed of light is not a wall meant to stop us. It is the rhythm that allows reality to exist at all. And in accepting that rhythm, we may discover something unexpectedly comforting. That meaning is not found in how fast we arrive, but in the time it takes to get there.